Hello there, and welcome back to the Codex. So just like I did with the Vesper Augment, I continued to diligently do all of my Nightwave dailies and the weeklies to make sure that at the earliest possible day, I can unlock the Biotic Rounds Augment for the AX-52, and we have finally done it. So I'm going to show you 4 different builds today that I have thought of, and you guys can decide what you think is the most effective. I have my own ideas, but let's go ahead and hop into it here. So there's going to be 4 main builds, as you can see with the titles here. It's going to be Corrosive and Cold, it's going to be Acuity, Corrosive, Blast, and Blast with Crux. We'll go over those one by one. Now, these first 2 builds here are going to be the best builds, at least against armored units, when you're starting from a cold start, as in with no deadhead stacks, no galvanized aptitude stacks. It'll get you warmed up with kills the fastest. So let's go ahead and showcase that. First of all, we'll cover the build here. Of course, all 4 builds are going to be using the main course of the meal here, which is Biotic Rounds. It's on the weak point kill, plus 150% viral and magnetic damage, and status chance, as in also 150% status chance, for 15 seconds. So this is a ton of viral, and a ton of magnetic, and a ton of status chance, all given to you in 1 mod slot. So while you can only see Corrosive, Cold, and Puncture on this build, it's actually going to be Corrosive, Cold, Puncture, and Viral Magnetic, because this is a conditional elemental buff, so you don't see it in the arsenal. This is very powerful, because this allows you to have elemental combinations that are not usually possible. For example, Corrosive Cold, Viral Magnetic is not a possible elemental combination to have because of the, well, for example, Cold is used to make Viral, so typically you can't have Cold and Viral together. Same thing with Toxin is used to make both Viral and Corrosive, so etc, etc. You can't usually have both of those. So very potent combinations this enables. This is a basically raw damage build, Corrosive Cold, along with the elements from this, along with Galvanized Chamber, Galvanized Scope, to really heavily feed into that crit chance on a headshot, because we're going to be going for entirely headshots, given the fact that, for one, this weapon has a unique trait of 400% extra crit chance, which equates to 104% more crit chance, because the base is 26, on aimed headshots, and we're using deadhead, so you really, really want to go for headshots, so Galvanized Scope does make more sense than Critical Delay on this build. We're using Galvanized Aptitude, which on this build is going to add 400% base damage, because we have modded 3 on, and then 2 more from Biotic Rounds, so that's 5 total stats effects, 5 times 80%, 400% base damage, and we do like that 80% stats chance that it gives us as well. So pretty basic build. Aside from that, let's go ahead and showcase this. We'll stop yapping here, and we'll show you what the kills are like. One more thing, actually. The companion that I have on, I am assuming that you're going to run a companion, as most people do these days, that is running Tenacious Bond and Reinforced Bond. So that's the only thing on this Nautilus build. I just have the Shield Bond to enable Reinforced Bond, and then on my weapon, I have enough crit chance to enable Tenacious Bond, and I don't have the Assault mode on, so my Nautilus won't attack anybody. So it won't. It's not doing anything unique here aside from giving me Reinforced Bond and Tenacious Bond. So keep that in mind, that I am assuming you have these mods active. Let's go ahead and take a look at some level 225 Corrupted Heavy Gunners. Now, of course, the first kills are going to be slower, because we don't have any Galvanized stacks or Galvanized Aptitude or the multi-shot stacks. Chamber, can't remember the name for some reason. Now you can see it's really ramped up, though. Once you get those first few stacks going, you basically start to immediately melt them if you shoot them in the head. Now, let's take a look at body shots here. Body shots are, of course, noticeably slower kills, because, for one, you're not getting that 6x critical headshot multiplier, and we're not going to be continuously triggering the augment, because you need to get, again, weak point kills. You can see we're proccing magnetic, viral, corrosive, and cold thanks to the augment. Very, very powerful stats combination. As you can see, single target damage is not an issue whatsoever. Now, on this build with multi-shot, you can see we're proccing a lot of stats effects. There's 5 magnetic, 4 viral, 2 corrosive. I can keep firing. Max magnetic, 5 viral, so on, so on. So there's a lot of stats effects that this build is going to do. Now, what if you want to try and get more upfront raw per shot damage, and maybe you're considering using primary Acuity? So we dumped the Galvanized Chamber mod, of course, because if you're using Acuity, you can't have multi-shot. The build is very similar. It's basically the exact same build. We're just swapping multi-shot for Acuity. So this is going to give us a lot more crit chance and a lot more base damage, specifically on headshots. And again, we're still using Deadhead. It's basically the same build, just swapping out multi-shot for the Acuity. So let's take a look at this. And as you'll see, this is also very good at cold starting, because of the immediate raw damage and crit chance you get just for shooting them in the head. It's not conditional for kills, that is. And then once you start getting ramped up, very good damage. Very good upfront damage. If anything, this might kill slightly faster than the multi-shot version. However, you are, of course, going to proc less actual status effects. So depending on the situation, it's similar to maybe slightly better. Finish off killing all these guys here. As you can see, basically all red crits, now that we're using Acuity. Alright, so what if we want to move away from raw damage setups, and we want to use something like Blast, for example. So this is a similar build to the first build, except we swapped over to Pure Blast, and we're now using Rifle Elementalist to beef up those blast procs even more. And again, we're still going deadhead to get that headshot multiplier. And of course, still Biotic rounds. So very similar to the first build. We just switched over to Blast. We're going to try and get some AoE damage basically from those blast procs, and we'll see how this does. The first major flaw you're going to notice with this build is that it sucks at cold start, at least against enemies that have armor. You can see this is taking absolutely forever to get through this guy's health bar, because we don't have the corrosive armor strip, which is primarily the thing they were missing that would allow us to kill these guys. So what I'm going to do, since this is terrible at cold starting against high-level enemies, let's go ahead and kill these guys. We'll summon in just some level 1s, just so that you can see what it would be like if we actually have some stacks up. Get a few headshots here. Then we will delete those guys, and we will bring back the 225s. And now that we have some stacks, you can see it's definitely better. Get those headshots, and you'll share that blast proc damage to enemies around. You can see 102k damage to a bunch of guys around this guy. Did again 117k on him, 117k on him. So you do get some nice radial damage added on to your AX-52 if you want to go for a blast setup. You just have to make sure that you're keeping your stacks up, because the moment you lose those stacks, it is going to suck to get them back. Because you do terrible damage without aptitude and chamber stacked up, and your deadhead on this blast setup. So now, let's change the arcane here. Basically the exact same build as this blast setup, except swapping from deadhead to Crux to benefit from the 300% status chance this gives you, and the 60% ammo efficiency. So the ammo efficiency, you'll be able to just continuously spit out more rounds, and that 300% efficiency is going to, of course, generate more blast procs for us. Now, does that make up for having less base damage? We'll see. Again, this is going to be horrifically bad at cold starting, so we're going to go back to the level 1s again and take them out, just to get some stacks going here. Now, of course, this would be better if you were using some sort of Warframe buff, like, you know, a Saryn build with Venom Dose and Toxic Lash and whatnot would really juice this up quite a bit, and then you could get much easier cold start kills. But right now, I just want to show the weapon on its own. So now they're 225 again. You can see with the Crux stacks, you definitely get a lot of status procs, and I mean a lot. Let's go ahead and just shoot this guy in the chest, for example, and see how many we get. Yeah, immediately 8 viral, multiple magnetic, multiple blast, multiple puncture. Truly a large amount of stats effects. So if you want to generate a much more massive amount of blast procs, maybe not necessarily as strong, but a lot more of them, you could try out a Crux build. In my opinion, and again, try these all out for yourself, but in my opinion, I like the first two Corrosive Cold builds better. I think my general go-to is going to be the multi-shot version, even though the Acuity version killed slightly faster. I do like getting all of those rapid corrosive and cold procs to benefit from the status effects that those grant. And I feel like that might scale slightly better into higher levels. Not sure. Haven't done level cap or anything with it, but I do like my status procs. Now let's go into an actual mission and show an example of what if you buff it up a little bit, for example. Actually, I can just show that right here. I'll just slap on Roar to give you guys an example now of what if you also apply some generic damage buff. So here's an 89% Roar. And once we get the stacks going, this will, of course, be dramatically more effective because I'm almost doubling the damage with Roar. And again, this is the multi-shot version of the Corrosive Cold build. So this is much better, of course. Just to show you also, just to be fair, let's go back to the Crux Blast version, for example. And we will also apply Roar to that. And yeah, this still really is not good at cold starting. So yet again, we will summon some level 1s to help this thing out. There we go. Get rid of them, go back to 225. And of course, blast procs are going to heavily benefit from having a roar up, so if you do want to go the blast variation of this build, I do recommend some sort of buff that would apply to the blast procs themselves. So obviously, you can tell from this setup, the raw damage corrosive cold variations are going to generally perform better without any sort of outside buffs. But what if you do want to use the blast setup and you want an example of something to make it really crazy? Well, we can of course bring out my favorite, one of my favorites, Saryn. So let's go ahead and slip her on. And if you use a build like this, benefiting from, you know, Venom Dose, Arcane Avenger, Toxic Lash, you guys have all seen my Saryn before. This will make the blast build absolutely insane, because now it's blast, viral, magnetic, corrosive, and toxin. So this is going to be very good. And if you're using this kind of a buffing setup, this will be the best build by far. So let's go ahead and prove that here. I also have Emerald Shards on my Saryn, by the way, so furthermore, I'm making the corrosive procs be a full strip effect. So yeah, this is super good right here. In fact, just to showcase this in a real environment, let's go ahead and hop over into my favorite, a Conjunction Survival. Alright, so here we are. Got my Venom Dust up, we got Toxic Lash up, and we're using the Blast build. And these are around level 180 to 200s on the Steel Path Conjunction Survival. So a bit of a more normal mission experience here. And again, like I said, when you buff it like this, it's absolutely a decimating machine. Per usual, it's always about the Warframe buffs. I wanted to save this for the end, of course, because naturally you should want to see what the weapon performs like on its own, but I also wanted to throw in this funny example of how you can make it be very good with a blast setup like this. Yeah, you can see it just killed like 7 people there with the blast procs going off, so this is definitely the way to go depending on how you're going to buff it. Now for the last important factor, how does it deal with acolytes on a buffing build like this, for example? Let's go ahead and jump ahead to that. Fun fact about using Crux, by the way, before the acolyte spawns in here. Since Crux gives you 60% ammo efficiency, and the AX-52 also has 60% on Hipfire, if you stack up Crux and then Hipfire, you have infinite ammo on the AX-52. So you can kind of, you know, turn yourself into the Godfather if you feel like. Just a little fun synergy there for you to make sure you know about that. Now the Acolyte should be spawning momentarily. Here he comes. Let's go ahead and reload, make sure we got full ammo. We have all of our stacks up, galvanized and deadhead and all, or not deadhead, Crux and whatnot. And I anticipate this will not be much of an issue to take out.
The longer you hold out, the deeper I can search.
Come on, let me shoot you in the head.
You need to leave. Extraction is ready.
Stop rolling around.
Void manifestations.
Yeah, it works on Acolytes absolutely fine. And of course, the generic corrosive raw damage version is going to work out perfectly fine as well. So there's four different variations for you guys. As you can see, I apparently can't record a video and stay alive at the same time. Let's go ahead and get back up here. There's 4 different build variations for you guys. Let me know which one is your favorite down below, or if you have your own build ideas, or your own Warframe synergies, for example. Always interested in what combinations you guys come up with that maybe I didn't think of. So let me know. If you liked the video, consider sub, consider liking. All the usual, you know, YouTube drivel. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the augment. I like it. I think it's pretty much mandatory on the AX-52. It's basically too good not to use. I mean, it's 300% elemental damage and a ton of status chance. It's pretty good. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next one.